Mr. Johnson, we're going to go to council comments here. So you're up.
Sounds good. Thank you, Council President. I just have one item. It's an informational item, I would say. It's more of an announcement that what I have before me is a citizen committee for initiative referendum regarding a call for action by elected officials representing the city of St. Cloud. What I'm going to do is just briefly read this to you and kind of explain what it is. We don't need any council action on this. This is just for informational purposes at this point to get the ball rolling. Under the provisions of the Home Rule Charter of the City of St. Cloud, Minnesota, under the comprehensive revision adopted March 18, 1952, and its amendments through the period of time ending July 10, 2017, Home Rule Charter, we, the undersigned residents and registered voters of the City of St. Cloud, acting as a citizen committee as defined by the Home Rule Charter, are exercising the powers reserved by the people under Article 5 of the Home Rule Charter, do hereby petition for a proposed resolution of the City of St. Cloud addressing actions to be taken by elected officials of the City of St. Cloud regarding the federal government's Refugee Act of 1980 and its amendments. Said resolution shall be placed before the voters of the City of St. Cloud at the next general election. So essentially what this is, this would be a proposed moratorium on a refugee resettlement similar to the one I did, but what it does, it allows the city residents to vote on this issue. A couple of things like before, this is not binding, it's not a mandate, but it allows the people of St. Cloud, the citizens, to actually vote on this. I think this issue has become so, shall I say, popular for quite some time. As you know, Mr. Hontos has tried to bring this up 3 times for a city council study session. I have supported that, and we have not been able to successfully do that. So what I'm seeing here is the next step as to a petition, initiative referendum before the voters this upcoming fall. What I'd like to do, since we do have extra time, I'd like to exercise a council privilege and recognize just Dr. Palmer to briefly, emphasize briefly, talk about this in detail. So everybody, including the public, whether you love this or you hate it or you're indifferent toward it, know what this is, so no one anywhere, any place is blindsided. So there'll be some time before this shows up in November. Thank you.
Mr. Libbert.
I would like to object to this, using my rights.
Okay, and so seeing that we have a council objection, then I have to defer to the council objection. So we'll move on. Actually,
that's none of the rules. There is no vote on this. You can vote to cease discussion. So if Dr. Palmer, in your humble opinion, becomes long-winded, you can certainly cease discussion.
But I believe
I'd like to recognize him.
But I believe according to council rules, Mr. Staling, is that correct?
My understanding of the council's recent amendments to the council rules is that a member of the council may exercise the privilege to recognize someone in the audience, but not over the objection of another council member. So
I'd like to see the words placed on the screen so all the members present see the actual rule and not just an interpretation. As a citizen, I've been silenced once before. I've asked for an apology. The administration has done nothing to respond to that. I have a right as a citizen to address this body. I've read those rules. I differ in your opinion of what the rules permit.
Yeah.
I agree with what Councilman Johnson has said. I was present during the discussion of those rules.
I'm going to need to see a hard copy, Matt, of those rules that specifically say that. I mean, we had this discussion extensively at the study session. I understand the council's rights to cease discussion if they, in their opinion, feel that it gets long or for whatever reason. But to try and stop this getting off the home plate, I saw no language anywhere, any place, at any time that would overrule my council privilege to recognize a citizen to talk about something so extremely important to this community. Now, is 5 minutes going to kill anybody here?
Okay, but let's, all right, I'm going to ask...
Still have my objection.
Okay. Let me just see if I can find, I got a new iPad, so I don't know that I can get what I'm looking for here. I was wondering, could we pull up a copy of the rules quickly off the webpage?
I have them on my computer, but obviously my computer must be flawed because it has a different interpretation than the administrator who was the perpetrator of having me leave a council meeting, even though, Madam President, you were the one that wrote me and said that you had nothing to do with having me removed from the council chambers.
Okay, but I think right now this is not a time to bring up anything like this. We're trying to get to the bottom of whether or not a council person objecting is sufficient to not allow you to speak.
And I simply ask that, as a citizen, you look at the actual
rules. But right now, we don't need to have any discussion right now.
You're not going to find it in there.
Okay. Let me see here. Official website, there it is.
Council President Lewis, I can read the rule number 16, recognition of speakers, into the record. Any member at a regular council meeting, including study sessions, may recognize any person without objection for the purpose of providing testimony or addressing the council on a specific agenda item being considered by the council. Said recognition shall terminate upon motion passed by a majority vote of the members present.
Okay, so there is an objection. So we need to have a motion then? Is that what you're saying? I guess. Okay, so Mr. Lippert?
I make a motion for objection to Mr. Palmer speaking.
Okay, is there a second? Mr. Masters? Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor, please signify by
I'd like to discuss this here.
Okay, go ahead.
This is unbelievable. This is an election year. You don't want a citizen of this community who's lived here for almost 40 years to talk to the council about something that people want to talk about? This is amazing.
Recognize me on the motion.
Okay. All right, thank you. You, Mr. Masters?
I would ask that this be sent to the city council members prior to it being read in a public meeting, so that we could take a look at it prior.
I'm not going to read
Okay,
it.
thank you. All right, Mr. Lippert, did you have anything? Any comment? Okay. All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
No.
All right. Mr. Palmer, you need to take your seat.
No, I do not. Read the Minnesota Supreme Court ruling that allows me to be present where I am. I sent that to you, Madam President. I sent
Okay,
it to every
but I'm
council
asking
member.
you to please take your seat.
You can ask me,
we are moving
you can ask
on.
me to take my seat all you want.
Okay, but we're moving on to the next part, which is the open forum. And we've got Mr. Kaufman. Could you let me know if we've got any speakers? We have 5 speakers today who've signed up. First on the list is Roxanne Ryan. Roxanne Ryan.
Hello, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to have me here. I am the chair this year of the St. Cloud Neighborhood Coalition, and on May 3rd, I believe it was, we had our first neighborhood summit, and I just kind of wanted to let you know how it went, and we had some wonderful neighbors come and give testimonies about what they love about living in St. Cloud and in their particular neighborhoods, and we thought it might be kind of refreshing for you to hear all that. So, as the St. Cloud Neighborhood Coalition, our mission is we build community. I like to say we build community one neighborhood at a time. This was the first time that we had done a citywide event like this, and I think we were all very pleased with how well it was attended, and want to thank publicly everyone who did attend it. Our goal was to help the community know what the St. Cloud Neighborhood Coalition is and does, and also about our strong partnership with the city. Our hope is that we will encourage other neighborhoods to join the neighborhood coalition. We think it's very important for them to have a voice, and we all know that sometimes there's issues that come up in neighborhoods, and for them to have a resource. Since my coming on to the Lake George neighborhood and the St. Cloud Neighborhood Coalition, I have been so impressed and so happy with the partnership that we have built with the city and our ability to work through issues and problem solve, and the city come to us and ask our opinions. I mean, Tech High School is a perfect example of a recent community meeting that was held. And so with that, I wanted to invite up some of the folks who did some testimonials. One of the folks is Moyadeen Muhammad, who is the president of the St. Cloud Islamic Center. He is unfortunately stuck in traffic, so he wanted me to extend his apologies. But at the neighborhood summit, he really spoke about having the neighborhood welcome the Lake George neighborhood, welcome the St. Cloud Islamic Center, and out of a national night out and a chance meeting there, that we developed our Share Our Heritage dinner. And I think it's been a wonderful way, not only for neighbors to get together, but also to invite the community in. And he just wanted me to express his gratitude for being in our Lake George neighborhood and being able to be part of our Lake George Neighborhood Association. Next, I'd like to invite up Ulysses Ramirez. Ulysses needs to skedaddle pretty quick. He's a graduating Tech High School student and has a 7 p.m. band concert. So with that, Ulysses, come on up.
And he is next on the list.
There we go.
Hello, my name is Ulysses Ramirez, and like she said, I am a senior at Tech High School. And my testimony at the St. Cloud Neighborhood Summit just basically summed up the 3 different types of constituents that are in this, I guess, in political science. One of them happened to be the parochial, which doesn't really concern themselves with government much. The subject, who kind of is aware of the government but doesn't do anything proactive to change the way they live or their standard of living. And another thing that I had touched on was on participants themselves as a whole. The fact that they are the people who push their voice forward, who actually try to get into these political meetings, just like right now with our city council meeting that we're having today. And I just wanted to congratulate and kind of give my thanks to the St. Cloud neighborhood for really trying to foster up the sense of community and the sense of neighborhood. One of the examples that they've had is they've had kind of like a St. Cloud neighborhood cleanup day. They've also had a neighborhood garage sale, and I just would like to thank everything that they've done, especially Roxanne, who has kind of brought me into these meetings. And it's really helped me kind of feel like a sense of pride for my community, just to be able to get out and meet our neighbors. And I know that's something that most of us in our generation don't really do anymore. And again, I would just like to say thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. And then next we have Jane Oxton.
I wrote mine out, or I'd never stay under 3 minutes. I was asked to make a testimony about living on the east side. John and I purchased a home on 2nd Avenue Northeast when our oldest child, Jeff, whom some of you know, was just over 2, and I was ready for our second child to come. It was a big old stucco house with a 4-square, and it had a double lot, and we just fell in love with it. However, coming from a small apartment to this house, it literally echoed. But it doesn't echo anymore because it's filled with too much furniture and too many memories and just too much stuff. It had been built in 1924, and we bought it from the original owners. Imagine that, a 94-year-old house with 2 owners. Doesn't happen in every neighborhood. They told us stories about horse-drawn lumber wagons coming in front of the house, and our neighbor behind us lived in the original farm home when the city took over. We were welcomed as the youngest couple by neighbors who had been there for a very long time. But over the years, one by one, our homes filled with younger generation, and our 3 children had a host of kids to play with. A school at the end of the block for our kids, where I eventually taught. A library, a grocery store, and a wading pool within walking distance. We lived near real people from all walks of life, and our kids met people from varying economic, working, generational situations to give them a broad picture of what it means to be community. One neighbor, Lila, was without family and lived with, and spent 30 Christmases with us. And Jeff invited dear Mr. Johnson at 90 years old to come to his 4th birthday party at Shakey's. Remember that place? Over the years, the neighborhood has changed again, and now John and I are among the oldest. For years, John would get out the snowblower and do both sides of the block, and now we wake up to find a younger neighbor who has cleared our sidewalks before we're even out of bed. The mantle has passed, but still every Halloween, about 100 kids come to our door. Many of them former students now come to have us meet their children. We've spent 44 years on the east side and found it to be a good place to put down roots and call home. Our Neighborhood Watch program has brought the neighbors in closest proximity into a common bond. And while we have not been active in the leadership of the neighborhood program, we do so participate in what they offer and appreciate the hard work that goes behind the scenes to beautify, connect, and keep us safe. But now the steps in the yard are just getting too much for us, and a move is in our future. But we will never regret having made our home all of these years on the good old east side. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Kyle Rail, please.
All right, hello, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
All right, 3 minutes, okay. So, I feel like I showed up late to the fireworks here tonight, but yeah, so just like to share with you a quote that I read out of a book that I found really interesting, but this is from, the quote was this, it says, "The majority of the issues that our community is facing would be eliminated or drastically reduced if we could just figure out how to become a community of great neighbors." And this was from the Mayor Bob Fry of Denver, Colorado. And I thought that quote really, it really grabbed my attention because I think St. Cloud is a type of a community where, as you can see as we look around this room tonight, we have a wide variety, a great amount of diversity, if we want to use that word, of people. And I think that this time of year is a great reminder for us when it rains and new plants and everything starts to grow up again, and you start to see all these things that have been dead all winter and they start to grow up. And I just started gardening actually last year. I'm 38 years old, married, got 5 kids, and decided to start a garden. In doing some research about gardening, what I found out is that one of the most important things about your soil is it needs to have diversity in it. And I think that St. Cloud as a whole community, we have a lot of diversity in many ways, shapes, and forms. And I think that because of that, our city has a great potential to be a great city and to actually grow out of that, and because of that diversity. And I think that the goal is not to be a diverse city. The goal is not to have a city that has a lot of potential where neighbors know each other, but I think the goal is that actually we would become a great city that is full of great neighborhoods, and that, like Roxanne and many others have said, is that the great neighborhoods come because of people that are great neighbors. And just walking in here tonight, I just asked my daughter, like, what do you think what would make somebody, how could you become a good neighbor to somebody? What might that look like? And she just said, you can be kind to people and you can help people. And I think that a lot of the things that challenges that we face in the city, I think could definitely be improved if instead of every time something happens in our city, instead of having to discuss it at a forum like this or to have to call other authorities, maybe if neighbors actually knew each other and learn each other's stories, maybe a lot of those things that we want to have improved anyways, I think a lot of those things might naturally become solved if we can become a community of great neighbors. So, thank you.
Thank you. And then the last speaker is Mohideen Mohammed?
He's the one who's stuck in traffic.
Oh, he's stuck in traffic. Okay. All right. Then,
Seth, I did sign up, correct?
I only keep track of the first 5. After that, it's whatever happens.
Seth, I have an email from you.
You did email me, yes. There was
Yes, you
also an
sent
email
me-
before you.
so we have an
So-
opening, and you are a citizen of St. Cloud, so you can
That's
speak.
correct.
3 minutes.
And I do have my blue card. Thank you for allowing me to speak. It's the first time in 2 meetings that I've been able to do that. You folks had no idea what I was going to say the last time. I was silenced incorrectly. You had no idea what I was going to say when Councilman Johnson recognized me to speak. This is a free country. I would hope that each of you who are elected officials would take time to listen to the citizens. And follow your own rules. I spoke last time about the fact that I asked for an apology and an acknowledgement of what the Minnesota Supreme Court ruled are citizen rights before the City Council. I have had no contact from anyone on this council or the city administration with regard to that. I reiterate my request for an apology and a clarification, an acknowledgement of what the Minnesota Supreme Court ruled last September in a case regarding a citizen in Little Falls before their city council. Thank you, Councilman Johnson, for attempting to at least give the council an opportunity to be aware of what happened today. Seth has received a document consistent with the Home Rule Charter, Article 5. The document meets all of the specifications, and I thank you, Seth, for being of assistance in giving guidance about the form of the actual signature forms. The Citizen Committee will begin the process of securing what I guess to be about 1,500 signatures. There are 2 documents which will accompany the resolution. One was put together by the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations Minority Staff and submitted to the record by Senator Richard Lugar from Indiana. I commend to you that reading because what that report said in 2010 is true today. The second is a summary of the papers that I have written and that are available online at drjohnwpalmer.com for download and examination. Don't rely on the newspaper. Read the original source documents. Become informed. I bring in front of the citizens the most sacred process, the people. We, the people. I am so pleased to live in a city that has the provision for we, the people, to stand before our elected officials who are empowered by we, the people. You serve at the pleasure of the people, you serve at the direction of the people, and I am hoping there will be at least 1,500 citizens that will give the people an opportunity to express themselves on a matter that deeply concerns the community.
Time.
I find it interesting that time is called on me and none of the others.
I called time on somebody else. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Libbert.